I am Alistair Leatherhead. I am European Bootblack 2020, serving until 2022 due to COVID. I live in Wales. I've been bootblacking for quite a number of years, but we don't really have very much in the way of public bootblacking in the UK. So I've done quite a lot of private bootblacking and family bootblacking. And obviously at the European Bootblack competition, we did some public bootblacking as well, obviously. Good evening. This is a bootblacking 101 class. I can see quite a number of bootblacks in the room, so I'm aware that some of you I may be preaching to the perverted, as it were, but bear with me, okay? I'm just going to go through some kit to start with for those who don't really know very much about bootblacking. So in my kit, I have a number of things that are my staples. I have a brush. I have a couple of these. Horsehair, nice and soft. I actually have a goat hair one on order because it's meant to be even softer and give a better shine. A nice horsehair brush. A nice thing to be aware of if you have horsehair brushes is that sometimes they lose bristles when you first get them. It's quite a good idea to give them a wash so it gets rid of the excess bristles, because you really don't want them sticking to your boots when you're shining them. And I have one of these. I have quite a few of these again. This one I use for saddle soaping and cleaning. Again, it's a horsehair dauber. I have a really scruffy looking toothbrush in my kit. It's a hard toothbrush. I use it on the welts of my shoes and boots, so along those edges there and underneath in the treads, and for any stubborn areas. I also have one of these, which is another type of dauber. You can buy any of these on Amazon or eBay, places like that. You'll find them everywhere. Also in my kit, I have some saddle soap. This is Phoebing saddle soap, which is one of my favorites. I like the smell of it. It's for cleaning. So you would use it on boots that were quite dirty to clean them down before you're going to apply polish to them. I also have glycerine soap, which I haven't brought up because it's actually in a soap dish somewhere. But just pure glycerine soap with no scent to it at all, and no colouring in it, and that's a much gentler clean that I also use. I have also some conditioners in my kit. This is probably the most well-known one, Hubert shoe grease. It's oily, it's a grease, it's thick, and it gives a really good condition to things like oil tan leather and the heavier leathers. I also have some other conditioners that I like using. I like this one. This is Wren's Leather Lotion. It's a British product that it's a cream, so it's very gentle, it's very soft, and it sinks into the leather really easily. The importance of this is that if you're doing a shine on boots and you want to condition, if you're going to put something like Hubert's on, it's really difficult to get a high shine on that straight away afterwards. I'd say probably impossible. You'd need a lot of work. So something like a lighter conditioner like Wren's, or my favourite one, which is Colonel, which is a German brand. It's a very light cream, and again, it sinks in very, very slowly. You can see that it's actually beginning to melt in the tub here, because it's quite warm in this room. But it just sinks in, and within a couple of minutes of applying that, I can actually shine on top of it and create quite a good shine. The other one that I have here, which is a favourite, is this one. This is Wren's Old Dubbin. It's one of my favourites because it smells absolutely amazing. it's got some essential oils in it, so that's something you need to be careful of because some people have allergies to essential oils. The same with any of the products that we've got here, that you need to look at what's in them, because some things have soy in them, which some people don't like. Some of them are nut-based. And you might want to let your client know, the person whose boots you're doing, know that that's what you're using on their boots in case they have an allergy. But that's something you'd really negotiate and talk about before you actually start working on the boots is, do you have any allergies? Would be a good question to ask. I also like this one. This one is a totally natural product. It's Chambers Leather Balsam. It looks a little bit like a petroleum-based thing, but it's not. It's actually beeswax-based. And it does have some nut oil in it as well. So again, that would be one you'd need to have a look at the ingredients of for people. But although it looks quite hard in comparison to some of the liquid conditioners, it actually doesn't leave as much of a residue as something like Hubert's does. So it's, again, easier to put a shine on top of that. That's the British product that is becoming one of my favorites. I only bought it a couple of months ago. So it's beeswax, coconut, and jojoba. So they actually list the ingredients on their products, which I rather like, because a lot of the brute backing products, you have to really search to find out what's in them. But Chambers are very good, and they do list the ingredients on the containers. So those are the conditioners that I use. I've also got one that maybe some people in the States will recognize. I've got Angelus Leather Balsam there. It's very, very, very similar to the Wren's. In fact, I don't think I would see that there was any difference in using either of them, to be honest. They both work very, very well and in exactly the same way. So, the other thing I have in my kit is cream polish. Cream polish works in a very different way to the wax polishes. You tend to use it on softer leather, and you tend to use it, well, you can get a shine on it. You can get quite a good shine on it, but you'd be very hard pressed to get a lasting high shine on it because of the nature of that sort of polish. It doesn't give a hard coat onto your boots. But it's very, very useful for softer leathers. I also tend to use it as a touch-up if I've got a pair of boots that doesn't really need a new dye job done on them, but actually could do with a little bit of darkening of the leather. I tend to use a cream polish first and then put the wax polish over the top, and it tends to blend in the lighter areas of leather. So now we come on to some of the wax polishes. I have a few. Again, Americans will recognize Lincoln. I like the Lincoln stain wax. It gives a really good durable shine. I also tend to carry a couple of other colors. I have the Marine Cordovan, which is a deep red color. And I carry the blue, the Marine Blue as well. I quite like layering my polishes, so sometimes I'll put a color on top of a black coat or even underneath a black coat, and it gives a depth of shine that you don't get with just using the black. So I also carry Angelus, and again I'll carry that in the Cordovan color, and I've got it in the blue too. I don't carry Kiwi, even though it's really very prevalent in the UK. It's probably our most basic polish, but it's not one I tend to like. I know that some people are very happy with Kiwi polish, but I don't particularly like it. What I do like is Sapphire. This is their basic polish, and it works beautifully. It really has a very good coverage. It has a very good color fastness to it. Some of the polishes, if you look at them over time in sunlight, they fade. Sapphire polish doesn't. It is very, very colour fast. So I carry the basic polish, and I also carry this, which is their mirror gloss, and that gives the most amazing high shine. It really is very easy to get a good high shine with that, but it's not something you'd want to layer. It doesn't layer well. It works really well as a top coat, possibly 2 coats, but I wouldn't put more than that on because it is very, very hard, and it tends to flake if you put too many layers on with it. But as a top coat, it works beautifully. Why I don't like kiwi polish? It's a personal preference, that's all. I think it goes back to when I first started bootblacking, and that's all I knew to use. And then I was introduced to other polishes and kind of went, oh, this is fantastic. I really like this. And I left kiwi behind, and I've never really gone back to it. I do like, which some bootblacks in the room will be spitting at, I do like Parade Gloss. But again, I like it as a top coat. It works in a very similar way to the mirror gloss, the sapphire mirror gloss, that it gives a really good hard top coat. But it does have silicone.
Warning to the Q&A, please.
Yes, thank you. It does have silicone in it, so that's something that a lot of bootblacks don't like, because it can sit in the pores of your leather and cause problems down the line if you don't if you get silicone in the pores of the leather. But if you've got a good few layers of polish on your boots and some conditioner, and you're going to use it as a top coat, I've never had any problems with it, and I've never had any problems with it degrading boots either. So that's something that I like using. However, since I've bought the mirror gloss, that has been my preference. So I'm being wooed away from Parade Gloss. I'm just going to show you a little bit of difference in leathers. This is an oil tan boot. It's a Doc Martin oil tan. You don't want to put a wax polish on these. You want to use one of the greases. I'm going to use the Wren's dubbing because that's my favourite. I use my hands. To use the conditioners and the greases, you really don't need to use anything unless you want to. You can apply it with a cloth. It would go pretty clumpy and horrible if you tried to put it on with a brush, but actually it really works beautifully because the heat of your hands warms up the grease, and it really sinks in really nicely. So all you really need to do with these are fairly new. They don't need saddle soaping. They don't need cleaning at the moment. They've barely been worn. But they do need a bit of a condition. Just rub it in with your fingers. If you don't like the texture of the polish on your hands, of the grease on your hands, put a latex glove on or a nitrile glove. But actually, just rubbing it in with your fingers is the best way to apply any of the greases and conditioners. You can see there really is nothing else that you need to do with those boots. You're not going to put a high shine on them. People will ask you sometimes to put a high shine on their oil tan boots. I tend to advise them that it's not what I'd like, not what you should do to them. But with a lot of work, you could get a high shine on them. Just not my preference, and not really something that works very well for this leather. I also like the tactileness of rubbing it in with your fingers, and if you're doing that on somebody's feet, it feels like a massage on their feet. It's a really sensual way to be applying polish, the conditioners. So I think we're coming up to the end of our first half. Any questions?
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes for Q&A. Lou, you've been collecting those for us?
Yep. Okay. First question was answered. Helen answered that. It was about a list of polish and conditioners. So that'll be Helen's going to gather those and they'll be posted to the event link.
Yes.
The next question was about asking where you got the Marine Cordovan polish. I did mention that it is available on Amazon at a premium, but I don't know if you want to make a quick comment on that.
Yes, I got it from you, Lou.
Yes. The alternative is fabulous. The alternative for that is either that or an exchange system. Really, if you have any friends in the States, it's not terribly expensive to have it shipped. I'd suggest you buy it in bulk and have it shipped once if you want to get the assorted colors.
I have a couple of bootblack friends in the States who are actually. One of them is getting me Kelly's polish, and I think they might even be in the room.
Oh, nice.
Because I really want to try Kelly's polish, because a lot of the American bootblacks really rate it. And you can't get it in the UK. You can't even get it on Amazon. They don't stock it. So
cool. Love to try that.
Yeah.
So a couple more questions. So Dr. Laurie's asked, she's got lots of colored leather boots and would love to keep them in shape. Are there any options for colors? Briefly, we've got two more questions.
Sorry, colors for?
Colors for boots, varieties of colors or options. Do the colors have to match exactly, or?
Yeah, if you put a color of polish that doesn't match your boots on it, it is going to have an effect. The way to get over that is to use a neutral polish. So you can get this one happens to be a parade gloss, but this is a neutral parade gloss here. Mm-hmm. It goes on clear, basically. Cool. So it'll bring up a shine on a coloured boot. But there are a lot of options, especially in the cream polishes. So if you want to touch up the colour on your coloured boots, and you can't find a hard wax polish that's going to do that for you, you could use a cream polish, and you can get a lot of different colours in the cream polishes. And then if you want to get a shine on top of them, use that on top.
Cool.
So that's a really good way if you've got lots of different colours in your footwear.
Great, thank you. DK had asked about why you didn't like kiwi polish, but I think you answered that already.
Yeah.
And Dr. Laurie had one more question. Laurie's got nails, although not terribly long. And how can I get them? And how can we do that and still get your hands on the polish?
You can use natural gloves.
Clean? And what about getting them clean if you do get polish on it?
Okay, so you can use saddle soap on your hands. You can use a nail brush and just saddle soap. That gets a lot of the stuff off. However, I do remember that actually it took me a few days to get my hands clean when I came back from Darklands in March. And I ended up resorting to an alcohol solution. So I used basically a white spirit and washed my hands in that and scrubbed them, and then moisturized them afterwards because it dries your hands out. So
that's hardcore.
Yeah. You can also get things like Swarfiga in the UK. I don't know if you can get that in the States, but that's pretty good at, it's a horrible chemical substance, but it does actually clean most things.
Cool. Laurie's with us here in the UK. Yeah. Another couple, if we have the time. Slave Morty's asking, how do you know if something is oil tan leather, from a beginner's perspective?
Oil tan tends to be softer. This is the oil tan boot I didn't actually do anything to. It's a very soft leather. It's supple. It doesn't have the hardness to it that a much harder shell leather will have. So it also has a slight greasiness to it. Even if it's dry, you will feel that it has that sort of greasiness to it. It doesn't have that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a high shine boot. That's a hard shine leather, and it's very smooth, very soft, very hard. that is a much softer leather. You can actually press it with your nail and it'll leave an indent.
Yep.
You're never going to get a high shine on those boots because of not one that's going to last, because of the type of leather it is. But yes, any of the oil tan boots will actually leave some sort of, I'm trying to think of the word. They're matte. They don't have any sort of shine to them at all.
If you're just buying a new pair of boots, you could use Google and look at the product description, and it will tell you what's on there. Just a little bit of a cheat. So some blue has shared that ash can also help get stains from the skin.
I have heard that, yes. I haven't used it myself, so thank you.
Alternative to Swarfiga, Little Leather Pup is sharing, is normal fairy liquid. A large teaspoon of sugar may work. It does for motor oils and grime, so it's quite possible.
Yeah, I remember my mother using that actually when I was a kid, so yes, it's obviously a fairly old home remedy for that.
I think that probably covers everything we have so far. Oh, sorry, one more. Dr. Laurie, patent leather boots, what do you do to keep them in shape?
Very little. Patent leather boots tend to, they keep their shine. That's the type of product they are. You can touch them up with a dye. If you get scratches in them, you can touch them up with a dye or with something like the cream polishes, depending on what color they are. But really, you don't really have to do very much to patent leather at all, other than wash them and clean them. You can buff them up with a soft cloth after you've washed them to bring the shine back. But really, if you scratch them, you're never going to get that hard shine back in that area. The best you can do is to cover it up with a cream polish and maybe a little bit of wax polish on top, but you're never actually going to shine it back.